So, welcome back to our second ever episode of the Balbriggan Chamber of Commerce podcast. I'm extremely delighted to say that I have Liam Fitzgerald beside me here, who is the owner of local solicitors based in Lusk. Liam, how are you keeping?
Yeah, good. Thanks very much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, well, I think we were planning to schedule this about maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. I think it was my fault, but I just wanted to say, I know you're a Kerry man, so I'm going to say because Dublin Betches down in Tralee, maybe that could have been the reason why we pushed it back. But yeah, so look, just getting started, I suppose. A little bit about yourself, Liam. You are a Kerry man. You're originally from Clorglan, is that correct?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. It's nice to see that you've done your homework.
Yeah.
Do you know my mother's maiden name as a password? If you do, don't tell anybody.
No, I don't.
Good.
So you grew up in Clorglan.
Yeah, the home of Puck Fairman.
Yeah, and and I know I was chatting to you a little bit before about that you are heavily involved with Lusk GAA.
Yeah.
Would you have played at all when you were younger with Land Rangers?
Yeah, I did. I would have played up until maybe under 16s. I would have played football with the likes of Mike Frank, Liam Hassett. There was a few other lads as well that I played with that actually went on and played Kerry minors, but I've forgotten those. It's only the Kerry seniors or Ireland winning guys that I remember playing football with. Unfortunately, they were a lot better than I was, so I just gave up.
Just well here, look, at least you could say you played with those guys, you know.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely.
So look here, would you be able to tell us a little bit about yourself, and I suppose then maybe your journey into setting up your own practice in Lusk?
Yeah, sure. So I was a bit of a latecomer into third level education because I actually ran a pub in London for a while, for a couple of years, and that was hard work.
Yeah.
Running a pub was hard work. It was 24/7, and I decided there must be better things to do with my life. So I decided to go back to college then, and I went to college in Letterkenny. The reason I picked Letterkenny was because I was thinking, well, if I'd come to Dublin, there would have been too many distractions and there's no way I would have made it past my first year in college. So I went to Letterkenny thinking, this is going to be nice and quiet up here and I won't have to, worry about distractions or anything. And then I found out that Letterkenny actually has the highest dropout rate. So it's a party town. So I did legal studies with taxation in college. And when I qualified with my bachelor's degree in legal studies with taxation, I was kind of left wondering, where do I go with this? What do you do with a degree in legal studies and taxation? So the obvious choice was to go on and do the FE1s and to train and practice as a solicitor. So I did that. I qualified within 2 years or something. I worked at a firm in town, moved on to a bigger firm, but there was always this draw just to see what it was like to do it for yourself, and I had always had this fear of taking that risk and doing it. And one day that fear was gone. It was gone. Just woke up and it was gone. So I took the plunge, and the plan was that if it didn't work out, I would go back working in a practice for somebody. And that's 11 years ago now.
That's well, congratulations.
Yeah, cheers, man. We've gone from strength to strength. But I think a lot of the credit comes down to the people in Lusk, because they welcomed me with open arms. They were prepared to come to me and, to take my advice and to listen to me, even though I was a Kerry man. Yeah. So I say fair play to those guys in Lusk.
And Liam, you mentioned there you were kind of a late bloomer, going back to college. Can I just ask you, I suppose, for anyone listening or viewing this that is potentially thinking of a career change, or, the way they might get a little bit of inspiration from when you went back to college, what age did you end up going back?
Yeah, I was 22 years old when I went to college.
Okay.
I remember the college have invited me back a few times, to give discussions to students and whatnot. And I remember one time I went back and I looked in the audience, and there was a woman who was older than me in the audience, and she was a first year law student. Yeah. And I had said, how I had come back to college kind of late at 22, and I
I
felt
was
under
going to say
pressure.
that, yeah.
And she looked at me as if 22, sure you were just out of nappy.
Yeah.
So I was kind of thinking maybe I'd put more pressure on myself than I needed to. But there you go.
Yeah.
It's never too late. And I really do think as well, it's probably about, you know, following your hopes and dreams. I remember somebody had said to me one time, you know, if you have a plan and if things don't go according to the plan, just change the
Yeah.
plan. You know,
Yeah.
so if there's a direction you want to go, and if you have an idea where you want, or if you have an idea of where you want to end up, if you have to take a roundabout way to get there, then by all means take the roundabout way.
Yeah.
You know, if an obstacle comes up, work around it.
Just work around.
Probably comes down to your attitude.
Adapt,
Can be
maybe.
done. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And just you set up in Lusk. Were you living at Lusk at the time?
Yeah.
And that's kind of that was the reason then.
Yeah. So the way it worked was, myself and my wife, we were living in town. It was back in the Celtic Tiger era. We had a baby on the way. We were in a 1-bedroom apartment in town. There was no way we could bring up a baby in a 1-bedroom apartment in town because it was Celtic Tiger. Lusk was the best place to come to.
Yeah.
Because it was within our budget and it was on the train line. And because I was in Lusk and because I had this idea that I would like to open business for myself, and because there was no other solicitor in Lusk, it was almost as if the stars had aligned.
Yeah.
And the signs were there. And there was even an empty unit on the main street. It kind of screamed out to me, Liam, come and take me.
Yeah.
I don't hear that too often.
And you know, when you mentioned about the fear factor.
Yeah.
And did you rent the premises right at the start? Yeah. So, and when you went in there, and obviously it's probably that excitement that you're setting up your PC and getting your filing cabinets in order. Was there like a time that you're sitting maybe 2-3 months going, God, what have I done? Or is this going to work? Or you probably need to have a little bit of resilience just from probably starting off because I know you're very successful now, but obviously, you know, the way you have to start from somewhere, you know.
Absolutely. Well, for me, I didn't really sit there kind of going, oh, what have I done? Because two things had happened. You know, one was, and I think I'd say this to anybody who's starting a business, I opened the business on a shoestring.
Yeah.
Right? I was really focused on keeping costs down so that I didn't get into debt or incur a whole pile of liabilities. And then because I was working as well, I kind of didn't have time to think about oh my goodness, what am I after doing? But one of the mistakes I made, but it was personal to me, was I didn't actually invoice clients. And I'll tell you why, because I had come from an environment where I just did the work and somebody else raised the invoice. So people were coming into me and I was doing work for them. I was kind of going, so, you know, I wonder if somebody raised an invoice for them. You know?
So you heard it here first. Liam Fitzgerald is coming back in those invoices 10 years ago, yeah?
Yeah, well, I had to have raised it first. I didn't, so you know. But I'll bill you now.
Look, that's fantastic. Just in relation to the services you provide, so would you be able to tell the listeners then just kind of what the services you provide, and maybe, I suppose, maybe one of them that's most in demand at the moment, potentially?
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest area for us is the conveyancing.
Yeah.
You know, people buying and selling houses and whatnot. But we're very much a general practice law firm. And I suppose what that means for people is, if you kind of think about it like your general practice doctor, right? So let's say, you know, you have a pain in your chest and you go to your doctor and the doctor goes, oh yeah, you've got a pain in your chest. And you kind of go, yeah, I kind of knew that. That's why I'm here. And the doctor's going, well, I think it might be this, or I think it might be this. It could be the lung, it could be the heart or whatever. I think it's the heart. I'm going to send you to a heart specialist.
Yeah.
So like you could come to me and you could say, well, listen, I have an issue in relation to some kind of, you know, injunction involving an airplane or something bananas, right? And I'd say, well, look, I really don't know a whole pile about that, but I know a guy who can do that, so I'll point you in the right direction. So that's very much the general practice. So in a general practice, we cover things like, you know, the family law, the divorces, the criminal stuff, you know, like you get stopped by the guards, no tax or insurance, the wills, the probate, the personal injuries, the buying, the selling of the houses, the remortgaging, this kind of general stuff, and we can do a lot of that in-house because the guys have working with me, they're working with me a long time and they're really, really good at it. So to come back to your question about, well, what are you doing there? What are you mostly doing? It's mostly conveyancing for us because Lusk it's a growing town. If any time you come into Lusk, you'll see houses being built. There's more and more people coming in. So we're lucky, and I think that's probably a bit of a way of maybe summing up my career to date. I have been lucky.
Yeah.
I've been lucky. Yeah.
Well, look, I think being lucky and working hard, like it all comes hand in hand, you know.
Absolutely.
I know we were chatting before and we were kind of saying, just I suppose with the property market at the moment, there's such a high demand and lack of supply. And I suppose myself working in a bank, I think we'll probably do maybe a quick run through maybe of what a customer would expect if they were coming in to use the bank services to get a mortgage, and then they were just say if they were going to be inquiring a solicitor, kind of will bring them through that process. Then how does that sound?
Yeah, that's super, and that's actually something that's very close to my own heart because we have a tagline in our business, and it's an informed client is a happy client.
Yeah.
Right. So if you can, let's go back to this doctor analogy, right? Let's say you go into the doctor and you've got a sore toe, and the doctor looks at it and goes, "Oh yeah, I know what's wrong with that," and he sends you off to the pharmacy to get tablets or something, or he sends you off for surgery, but he never actually tells you what's wrong with your toe or why it's sore, right? Then you're left wondering, and it's perfectly natural. It's human nature for somebody to assume the worst.
Yeah.
Right? So if you come to me and you're looking to, get a mortgage, buy a house, deal with an estate agent, all these kind of things, and you've never done any of these things before, and you're kind of going, it's a big, bad world out there. It's a complete nightmare. And you know yourself, if you have to do something outside of your comfort zone, it causes anxiety and stress, and it just makes the whole thing worse. So what we like to do is get clients in, just sit down with them for 15 minutes. Just talk them through the process. Explain what everybody does. So just for the benefit of the people who are listening to this, I'm just going to do that as quickly as I can. So the way it's going to work is, if you've decided you want to buy a house, well, then you need money, right? So not only do you need money, but you need to find out how much money can I afford here. So your first port of call is going to be, "Mom, have you any money?" And she'll say, "Well, I don't have $500,000 to buy a house, but why don't you go and talk to Jude down at Permanent TSB? He's a lovely guy. Crap footballer, but he's a lovely guy." So in they go to Jude and they say, "Listen, Jude, can I borrow money to buy a house?" And then you say to them, "Sure, but can you how much can you afford? So let's go through your financials." So then you'll go off and you'll have a look at, well, what are they earning? What do they have dependents? What are their outgoings? Will they be able to afford to repay the loan? And they come along and they say, "Well, look, this is what we're earning and this is what we're doing." And then you say, "Well, look, that's great. We can lend you X amount of money because that's what we say, or that's what we think you can afford to repay." Right? So then they have an idea of how much they can spend. They have an idea of what kind of a property they're going to buy. So they're probably going to come and buy something that doesn't have a swimming pool and 4 garages, So they're coming along and they say, "Okay, we can afford 3, 4, 500,000 euros, whatever it is." That's the market they're in. So then they're looking at prices in that range. And then they go along and they see the house they love and it's 400,000 euros and they want to buy it, and they make an offer, and somebody else wants to buy it and somebody else makes an offer, and they might get outbid. And this happens. And they shouldn't, be disheartened or feel like that the world is finished because their first offer got rejected. It happens to everybody. You just got to keep going. You will get to a stage where you find a house you like. And I can tell you stories where, people were actually blessed that their first offer wasn't accepted because they actually found another house that they loved. Right? So they go along and they make the offer in the house. They're dealing with the estate agent. Their offer is accepted. That's great. Get yourself a bottle of champagne. Go and celebrate. You're going to have to pay a booking deposit to the estate agent. So that's the estate agent's role. So we know what Jude does. Now we know what the estate agent does. So you go and you pay your booking deposit to the estate agent. That'll come off the ultimate purchase price in the finish. And then the estate agent will say, "Well, what solicitor are you using?" And then at that stage, we would hope that they'd say, "Oh, look, we're going to use
in
local
Fitzgerald,
solicitor,
yeah.
in Lusk." So then the estate agent goes off and tells the solicitor who's selling the house, "Oh, can you send the contracts out to Liam Fitzgerald and Lusk?" And they come in to us. We get in touch with the client saying, "Listen, we got your contracts in. We're just waiting to get a loan pack in from Permanent TSB." The loan pack comes in from Permanent TSB. We've got the ingredients then to go and do the work. So we will go and we will look at the contract for sale, and we will look at the copy title documents. If we can comply with the conditions in the contract, and if the title documents look good, and if we can comply with the conditions in the loan, then great, we're signing contracts. So we sign contracts, we pay the balance of the deposit. So the deposit is usually 10%. So let's say the house was 400,000 euros. Let's say you gave 10 grand to the estate agent as the booking deposit. 10% of 400,000 euros will be 40 grand. You've already paid 10. So you paid 30 when you sign contracts. So then you've signed the contract to buy the house, and you agree on a closing date. And whoever's selling the house, if it's a new house, great. Or if it's a second-hand house, the people will be able to move out on a certain day because they're going doing their own thing. We'll sign the contracts. We'll get them in. We'll say, okay, we're going to close this the end of March. And then we'll go off to Jude and Permanent TSB, and we'll say, "Jude, can you give us the money to buy the house, please?" And you'll say, "Sure." Money comes in to us. We give it to the vendor solicitor on trust. They give us the title documents. Everything's on place. We do the searches to close. It's all good. And you go pick up the keys, and then you get another bottle of champagne.
You're making it sound you're making it sound so easy and seamless.
It can be. It can be.
If it's the right case.
If all the stars align, it can be. But every case brings its own little issues and quirks. And I can tell you this much, that it is perfectly normal for these little hiccups to arise. The hiccups will always look different or be different in every case, but they will arise. And I have yet to see a situation where we couldn't overcome these hiccups. I've had people in my office crying because they think the world is at an end because they can't close on Tuesday. They can't close on Wednesday. It's not the end of the world,
And you mentioned, Liam, hiccups. Okay, so you've painted the perfect picture. So for people listening, they might say, "Oh God, my mortgage wasn't like that." There was barriers, all the way through. But what kind of hiccups then potentially? Maybe, I know just off my head, I'm thinking like maybe boundary issues, title deeds. So maybe it might be kind of a sole title, and then if it's a switcher and they're adding in their spouse or whatever, and adding on that second person onto the title deeds, that can kind of slow down the process.
It can, but a lot of these things are fixable. I don't know. Have you ever seen Pirates of the Caribbean? Johnny Depp, the Jack Sparrow. He's got a great line. I love it. And I say this to people all the time. And I think the line is something along the lines of, "The problem is not the problem. The problem is your attitude to the problem." So if you've got a can-do or a positive attitude, you will overcome the issues. You just have to work around. And it goes back to what I was saying about if you hit a speed bump, it is not the end of the world. Don't give up and fall down the ground saying, "I can't do this anymore." You can. And we're here to help you, and we will get you there. I've had clients. I remember one time I had a woman coming into me. She was buying a house, and it came to closing the sale, and she was going to go to the estate agent to pick up the keys or something. And something happened. I think maybe the estate agent was showing another house to somebody else. So the estate agent couldn't be at the office at 2:00. They would be there at 3:30 or something. So the woman came in to me, and she was all anxious over this. And I remember I said to her, "Okay, look, sit down, we'll have a cup of tea, and by the time you have the tea drank, you can go over to the estate agent." She actually couldn't sit down. She was so worked up over the whole thing. Now, I bet you if this woman looks back now, she would say, "Oh, I couldn't believe I was so worked up over having to wait 90 minutes to get the keys." But because it's the center of the universe for them when they're going through this, that's all they can think about. And they can't see, the wood from the trees type thing. But like,
and I do think it is important, as you said there, that like when you are speaking to customers and the way giving them the advice, because we are experienced. I'm not the way not saying that, but to just tell them the way like it will work out, and they probably just need that kind of reassurance, just to say, look, everything will work out. It might be another day or two before you get the funds or you get the key or whatever. But I suppose just to help them along that journey as well.
Absolutely. Like we've had lots of situations where we've had clients where everything was just a problem. Oh, it rained at 10 o'clock on Tuesday. Oh, it's an awful thing. We're kind of going, really, that's got nothing to do with the whole thing. But I understand that. I really do. And you understand it as well. We see this all the time. And I think, sorry, I think, you were saying to me, well, what's probably the biggest obstacle that you see, or what's the most common obstacle that you see? Well, I can tell you, and this is no disrespect to anybody, because I really don't want to be falling out with anybody or anything. But
we can cut this bit out.
Yeah. But no, it's a fair comment. It's a fair comment, and I'm probably going to have to do a little explaining afterwards. Okay, so I will get to this. All right. But when you introduce brokers, right, this is a layer of bureaucracy that can cause a little hiccup, and the reason it causes a hiccup is because brokers deal with a different arm of the bank than the solicitors deal with. So the solicitors will deal with title and securities, right? Whereas the brokers will deal with the brokerage arm. Now, I love you brokers. Thank you for the business. Okay, and if anybody's wondering why was the silence, I was winking at the camera. Okay, and I'll do it again. So what happens is, normally if people go to a broker, and brokers are great because they can get deals for people that you can't get yourself. But what happens is they tend to cover things like the home insurance and the life insurance and stuff like that as well. Okay, so when we go to draw the money down from Jude and Permanent TSB,
thank you very much.
So when we go to, and we phone up Jude and say, Jude, man, where's the money to close this house? And you say, Liam, I don't have a copy of the life cover. And I go back to the client. I say, look, just spoke to Jude, that lovely lad in Balbriggan who can't play football, but he manages the minors for Dwyer. He said the life cover isn't there. What's the story? And then the client will say to me, but our broker said it's done. And this is a classic. I'll never get old of telling this story. So I say, well, can you go to the broker and ask him, So the client phones up the broker and they say, well, our solicitor's just saying that Jude in Permanent TSB Balbriggan doesn't have our life cover. What's going on? You told me you gave it to the bank. And the broker says, yes, I did. I gave it to the bank. And then the client is wondering, who's lying to me here, right? They smell a rat straight away. Now, the thing about it is there is no rat. It's not a case of somebody has deceived or misled anybody. Because what's happened is the broker did get the life cover. The broker did give it to the bank. But what the broker gave the life cover to actually works in the Long Mile Road, and he hasn't scanned it onto the system for Jude to see it. So as far as Jude is concerned, we don't have it. But it's with Permanent TSB. So the broker has told the truth. We've told the truth. Jude, that lovely lad, Balbriggan, Permanent TSB, he's told the truth. But I blame that faceless Joe on the Long Mile Road for not scanning it onto the system. I never get sick of telling that story. It's as true as the day is long. And it gives you the perfect example of the type of issues that clients come up against who when they do come up against it, they think the wheels have come off and it's the end of the world. And it's not. It's a minor hiccup.
And I think actually that's actually a very valid point there, because I'm just thinking that, just say, for example, you have a mortgage customer that is with PTSB. We'll keep on saying this.
Yeah. Lovely lad, Jude. Where's the camera?
So we have a mutual client, and it could be a case then that, so I can see the conditions on my side, what the bank are looking for, and then also I can see then the conditions on the solicitor side, like the check rec and all that good stuff. But it could be a case then that I could pick up the phone to you, Liam, and I'd say, Liam, the way, it could be something, the check rec come in and the date might not be on it. Okay. But it's about just having a connection, having a contact in, just say, whatever solicitor you're dealing with. And it kind of makes the process a little bit quicker, I think, rather than, as you're probably saying, that maybe if you have this third or this middle person, the way, and I suppose it actually gives a little bit more clarity to the customer then as well. That the, the way that there's only just two people dealing with it,
Yeah. I think the key to success is relationships, right? And it's very important on so many levels that people can pick up the phone and they can talk through the issues and find the solutions. And I'm always saying to clients, it's very important that you have good relationships with people. So, like we've got a good relationship with you. If there's a little issue, you can pick up the phone, we can get it sorted out pretty quickly, and nobody's going to have a nose out of joint or anything.
And the great thing is that we can speak to each other.
Yeah.
And the customer might not know anything about it, that you can pick up the phone and say, Jude, what's happening there?
Absolutely.
Can you have a little look at it and I'll come back to you.
Vitally important.
And whoever the customer is, they don't know about it and they're avoiding that stress because it is a stressful process,
But
so
we try and keep clients in the know all the time anyway, because like I said, it's when they don't know, they imagine the worst, and that's when things grow legs and goes all the way. But another important thing to note about the relationship is, especially if you've got somebody who's buying a new build, it's important that the people who are buying the new build, that they have a good relationship with the foreman on site.
Okay, yeah.
That's a very important thing to have, because they can go and they can talk to the guy on the ground, when do we think the house is going to be finished? Because if you go back to, like, if you're asking the estate agent, when do you think the house is going to be finished? The estate agent's talking to the builder. He's not talking to the foreman. And he's going by what the builder's saying. And the builder probably isn't even on site, whereas the foreman is. And plus the fact as well, and this is a vitally important part as well. Like, if it's a case that your sale was supposed to close on Friday for this new build, but let's say the solicitor on the other side was off sick or something, so we couldn't close, and you had ordered your bed from Harvey Norman, and if it turns up on site on the Friday, if you have a good relationship with the foreman may let you put the bed into the house. Now, he won't give you the keys of the house. He won't let you move in for the weekend, but he might let you put the bed in.
We had actually something similar when actually myself and my wife, when we bought in Balbriggan, and I think the funds issued to the solicitor, I think it was sometime maybe Friday afternoon or whatever, but because
solicitor went on the beer. Cheers, Jude.
But basically what normally happens then is the solicitor then has to transfer it to the vendor.
And it has to be cleared funds in the vendor's bank account.
Exactly, But we bought in Glenveigh or Taylor Hill in Balbriggan. But basically the solicitor we used, the funds transferred, so it issued. So we got the confirmation from the bank on the Friday. And then the solicitor then said they obviously had a contract with Glenveigh, and they were able to maybe scan a one-liner across to Glenveigh to say, here, look, we do have the funds for whatever the property address was. And then that evening, would you believe it was like maybe 8 or 9, we were driving up and we met the guy in the cabin and he gave us the keys.
But that's the importance of having that relationship. It's so vital. But one of the other things that I want to flag for first-time buyers especially, particularly if you're buying a new build, is like if you're told, oh look, we think it's going to be closing on the 14th of March. Please do not arrange for the couch to be delivered on the 14th of March, the Sky TV guy to come along and connect your Sky TV on the 14th of March, and for the guy to come along and do your laminate flooring or whatever on the 14th of March. Because I don't want to be in a situation where the water isn't connected. It won't be connected till the 15th. We can't close on the 14th. And you're phoning me up going, the Sky TV guy's outside. What am I going to do? And I say, well, listen, I told you, do not get anybody in to do anything until you have the keys in your hand. You'll be there for the rest of your life or for a good long time anyway. There is plenty of time to put in Sky TV next week.
And we'd actually say the same as well. So for our post loan offer documents, you'll have your life cover and you'll have your home insurance. So before we can actually issue the funds in the bank, those two policies need to be enforced. So sometimes customers would ask me, oh, Jude, when do you think, can we put that in force now, or when do you expect, or when should we? And I'd always just say, whenever you have a closing date, you can put it like a day or two beforehand, because
it has to be there. You're not getting the money.
Because sometimes you could potentially put it in force and you might end up paying like once or twice has happened, you're paying like 1 or 2 months premium on home insurance and life cover. Now, it might not be a whole lot, but look here, it's something that they don't need to have enforced
Absolutely,
there
yeah.
and then. So just to save them a little bit of money, you know.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's all these practical tips, and people are always saying to me, "Oh, Liam, can you write, like a quick buyer's guide, 10 tips and whatnot." Anytime I try and do it, the 10 tips are different.
Yeah.
They're always changing. It should be like a short book on,
Yeah.
a buyer's guide, and I don't have time to write a book. But if a client comes in and they ask me the questions that are really bugging them, that they want answers to, and we'll give them an answer. 'Cause
Yeah.
more often than not, we know the answer. All you have to do is ask, and we'll tell you. They will feel a whole lot better about the process. I've seen people. You remember I was telling you about? I've seen people crying in my office.
Yeah.
Like when people leave my office, it's like you've lifted a weight off their shoulders. They're going out the door. They're a foot taller. They're smiling. They're happy.
Yeah.
And that's the way it should be when you're buying a house. It's an exciting time. It shouldn't be one of these things where you're dreading even looking at it because of the anxiety and the frustration.
Yeah.
No, there's plenty of qualified people there. They know what they're doing. Have faith.
Yeah.
Trust them.
And actually, it's interesting you should say that because I've got notes down here.
Oh, yeah.
No, because I was chatting to my wife.
Oh, man. I got a second. Should I be putting on the clock here?
and I've got to
you know, we charge a couple $100 an hour. Right?
So I was just saying that I was doing this episode with Liam Fitzgerald, local solicitors.
Yeah.
And would you believe it? Because you were talking about maybe helping the customers and giving them a real good customer experience and being there for them because it is really important.
Vitally important.
But Jasmine then said, "You're meeting Liam Fitzgerald."
Yeah.
I said, "Yeah." And then she goes, "Oh, his name came up in the
Jesus.
local the local
Crime court.
no the local baby group in
Oh, man. If my wife is watching, it's a different Liam Fitzgerald, I swear to God.
In Balbriggan. So actually, it's important to say that I have a 10-month-old baby, and that's why Jasmine's there. But basically, one of the ladies was saying that they were looking to get the services of a solicitor.
Oh, yes, okay.
And basically, then one of them actually mentioned Liam Fitzgerald.
Oh, very good.
In local solicitors. So, and actually, it just goes to show, the way. And we'll touch a little bit about your business, the way about tips that you'll give, but it is really important to give exceptional customer service.
Yeah.
And I suppose you always hear this tagline like, my business is built on referrals.
So well, that's true. It's about the relationships. We don't use that tagline, but it is true.
Yeah, and like, who would have thought Liam Fitzgerald being mentioned in a baby group in Balbriggan at like 10 a.m.
Can you imagine where the mother wants to sue? Oh my God, this is not my child.
But yeah, look here, it just goes to show the importance of giving really good customer service on.
Well, it's something we definitely pride ourselves on. Because I know you're saying about referrals and all this kind of stuff, but it makes life easier for everybody if there's a good relationship.
Yeah.
Right? Because nobody wants to be dealing with anybody that they're afraid to deal with, or they're dreading picking up the phone, talking to somebody. If that's the case, then clearly you're dealing with the wrong person.
Yeah.
So nobody wants that.
Yeah. Liam, just I suppose I get this a little bit, but in relation to when you're funding the mortgage, so a bit about the deposit piece. So would you be able to kind of run through then? So for example, if someone's buying a house, and they have a little bit of savings, but then they're getting a gift or a bit of inheritance, then the way just to fund that property purchase. Would you be able to kind of run through maybe the thresholds, or it doesn't even have to be the thresholds, but maybe kind of maybe I would say maybe the limits, or the way just kind of the levels.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to talk to you about this whole 80% mortgage and 20% deposit and all this kind of stuff, because that's really your gig. You can explain to people, and I don't want to cross over, especially because I might get it wrong.
Yeah.
But in relation to deposits, and perhaps like getting a loan from your parents or something,
Yeah.
right? That's something that I think we should probably touch on,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
will talk on a little about, because this always comes up, right? So Joe and Mary go into Jude, Berman, TSB, Balbriggan. So they go in and they say, listen, we would like to buy a house. And you say, well, look, do you have any money? And you say, well, no, we're young. Of course we don't. But mom and dad's going to give us 10 grand, for example, right? And you say, that's fine, but we'll need a gift letter from your mom and dad, because we need to know that it's a gift. You don't have to repay it back. And we need to calculate that in to work out the affordability for the loan. So can you get us this gift letter, please? And they go off and mom and dad give the gift letter and say, yeah, we're giving little Mary 10 grand there to go and buy a house, So then when the mortgage papers come into us, this loan pack comes in from Permanent TSB, in that loan pack, there's a deed of confirmation, right? And that deed of confirmation needs to be signed by the parents. And the reason it needs to be signed by the parents is because by the parents giving 10 grand to Mary, they're effectively doing the same as what Permanent TSB are doing.
Yeah.
They're giving money to Mary to buy the house. Now, Permanent TSB are giving a hell of a lot more than the 10 grand Mary's parents are giving. So Permanent TSB need to know that their money is secured.
Yeah.
So they need this thing called the first legal charge on the property, right?
Yeah.
And they're not going to give money to Mary to buy a house, and then let's say for some reason, Mary decides to go to Hawaii and not bother paying the mortgage, and Permanent TSB need to repossess the house to get their money back. They don't want Mary's parents coming in going, well, hang on a second, you can't take the house back because we actually have a charge in it as well. So the parents have to sign this deed of confirmation to say, listen, we're waiving our entitlement to look for a security against the house. And that's a vitally important piece of paperwork that the bank need. And people always say to me, oh, but my parents already did, a gift letter. Yes, they did, but that was solely for the purpose of calculating affordability. The deed of confirmation is a legal document in relation to waiving an entitlement. So that's an important part in relation to the document. Like I said, I'm not going to talk about the percentages and whatnot, honestly, because I'm no expert on it.
And just with inheritance levels then. So I think the threshold is 400,000. And then anything above that, would you guys work that out then, like paying back maybe the tax or on that, or how would that? So just say if there was a customer that came in and they were looking at buying a house, and just say they were getting a gift of 500,000. How would that work then with kind of the inheritance thresholds and taxes?
Okay, so when you get a gift, strictly speaking, you're supposed to be making a return to the revenue.
Yeah.
Nobody ever does. Oh no, I'm sure they do. If you're the revenue and you're listening, we're paying our tax. So you're supposed to make a return to the revenue. Now, more often than not, the gift isn't 500,000 euros.
Yeah.
No, you could get an inheritance of 500,000 euros. Absolutely right. So let's say you got an inheritance of 500,000 euros. You would have to pay the tax on the inheritance.
Yeah.
Right? Before you could go and use the money anyway. Now, not strictly speaking, you could actually use the money and not pay the tax, but then you'd be left with a tax bill and interest and penalties.
Yeah.
So it's not recommended that you do that. So you'd have to pay the tax first. Now, you are right. The threshold is 400,000 euros, and then it's 33% on anything over the 400,000. So if it's 500,000 euros, it's 33% on 100 grand. That's 33 grand. That's a lot of money. So you have to set that aside as your tax bill that will have to be paid. In other words, you can't put it towards the house.
Yeah.
If you do, you could be in a lot of trouble with the revenue later on, because if the interest and penalties accrue, and if the revenue sue you, they will put a judgment mortgage on your house, and they'll be looking to get a hell of a lot more than 33 grand back off you.
Yeah.
So it's important that if you do get an inheritance, that you do have your tax in order. Vitally important.
And with gifting then, am I right in saying, so just say myself and my wife, we have a little boy.
100,000 euros.
No, well, I wish.
Want to give it to me?
But we can gift our little boy €3,000 each.
Yeah, that's a small gift exemption.
Small gift exemption.
It's a different thing, yeah. Actually, there's a great story I like to tell about this.
Go on.
correct me, internet world, if I get this wrong, right? But I think it was Niall Quinn. I think it was Niall Quinn. I don't know, right? But they had a testimonial.
Yeah.
Okay. So the tickets might have been like €100 a go for the testimonial. Okay. So let's say, they sold 100,000 tickets or whatever. I don't know. Let's 10,000 tickets at 100 quid a go. How much is that?
Sorry.
Whatever. Let's say like it's 3 million quid he got in, right?
Yeah.
So he didn't have to pay the tax on the 3 million quid. And the reason he didn't have to pay the tax was because technically it was a gift of under 300 or under 3,000 from every person. So he collected like,
and that's a true story.
Yeah, he collected like $1 million bucks or
we'll
whatever.
have to Google that.
Yeah, but no tax. But yeah, so coming back to the point, yeah, you can do the small gift exemption. It is €3,000. It's for anybody. It doesn't have to be for your son. I think there was a case there not so long ago where some guy put 70 grand into his post office account or something, and then tried to claim that, it was a gift I got from my parents every year since my Holy Communion,
Yeah.
But it was a lump sum of 70 grand.
I do think it probably is a good way for parents to transfer their wealth, maybe a little bit tax efficiently.
That's if you've got 3 grand a year to give to your kids, I know everybody is feeling it. It's tighter now.
Yeah.
I would love to be able to give 3 grand a year to my kids, but I gotta feed them. So they've got a choice, and I'd prefer to feed them or I'll be going to jail. No, if you've got 3 grand a year to give to your kids, absolutely, it's a great way of doing it if you can afford to do it.
Yeah. In the bank, customers would come in and sometimes they'd be potentially talking about wills.
Oh, yeah.
And it would come up, and I suppose having you in here today, it's probably a question you get all the time, but what is a will?
Yeah. It's funny you should ask me about this because just last night I gave a talk to the ladies in the ICA in Lusk about wills and things like the fair deal scheme and stuff. And this was a topic I was supposed to cover in like 20 minutes. Sure, I think I was still on the first page 1 of the will half an hour later, and they had to cut it short. Going, okay, we'll leave that. So wills, these are, again, I know I've used the phrase vitally important a couple of times, but yeah, this is another vitally important thing, right? And it's particularly important for young couples, okay? And the reason it's particularly important for young couples is because, they have this idea of, look, we bought a house, we owe the bank all this money, sure, I have nothing to give to the child because I owe the bank all the money. And that may well be true financially, but what they're not saying is, if something happened to parents, who's going to look after that child? You'd have to appoint a guardian. And also, if something happens to the parents, there's life protection that's going to kick in. It'll pay off the mortgage. So then you have this house, which is an asset, which will be, 300,000, 400,000, 500,000 euros maybe, which is supposed to be left for this 8-year-old.
Yeah.
An 8-year-old can't get a house, or what are they going to do with $500,000? So you have to appoint trustees. So it's vitally important to do wills for those purposes. But to come back to your question of, what is a will? Well, it's a document. It's a piece of paper pretty much setting out your intentions for what you would like to happen after you're gone. That's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Yeah. And you mentioned there, I think probably younger people might not feel that they need it, but my next question is like, at what age should you get a will? But I suppose from 18 or whenever, like, it's just kind of I would always recommend, just this is for myself, that when someone is buying a property and they are dealing with a solicitor, just even inquire about a will. Because as you said, like, what happens to the assets, God forbid, if something did happen.
No, that's good advice. I mean, any clients or borrowers who go to Jude in Balbriggan, they're getting sound advice at very reasonable rates. But yeah, no, it is important that to go and to do the will, especially for things like making provisions for younger children, and for setting out what they would like to happen. I can tell you one of the stories I always tell. Jesus, I'm a great man for telling all the stories. But anyway, when myself and my wife were going to do a will, because we bought our house, and the solicitor who was doing the conveyance for us was doing a will as well, and they said, "Well, who's going to look after your children?" And like our children weren't even born at this stage. There was one on the way. And they were saying, "Well, who's going to look after your children?" And being the Kerry man that I am, I said to my wife, "I said, sure, my mother will look after the kids." And my wife, politely said to me, "Over your dead body." So, I think marriage is about compromise, and I'm still alive. So, as you can see, I compromised, and it turned out that we appointed my sister-in-law as the guardian and trustee for our kids, which was the right thing to do, because considering my mother will be 80, in the not too distant future. So,
and then in relation to reviewing your will. So just say, for example, if I go down to Liam Fitzgerald and local solicitors in Lusk,
good luck getting them plugged in.
If I go
I
down,
just wish I had a little song. Ding, 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 ding. Go on, sing it.
But if so I have a will in place. How regularly should you review your will?
Yeah. That's a good question. Now,
I presume maybe with change of circumstances. Personal, family.
Absolutely. Like we try and draft our wills so that they're broad enough to deal with a lot of situations. Like I've had people come in to me who would say, "Oh, look, we did wills years ago when the children were small, and they've grown up now and they've moved out and they're married and their own kids and whatnot. Should we change our will?" And I said, "Well, look, it depends on what your will says." And their will was drafted in such a way that the intention and the provision of the will was still as valid today as it was then. It still does the same thing. Now, if it's a case that, you had made a specific bequest of your club football All-Ireland medal, which I don't think he has, by the way, you want to leave that to your granny, and if in 40 years from now your granny's moved on to a better club like Lusk, well then obviously she's not getting the club championship medal that you don't have. So you could change your will to leave it to somebody else, some other fictitious friend. But yeah, you could change it. So like you said, you would change it for like if there's a change of circumstances or something. Absolutely. One of the very real stories that I had was I had some parents that came in. They had some children. They had an issue with one of the children, so they wanted to effectively leave them nothing. And I was saying, look, you can't really do that because a child can make an application to say that the parent failed in their moral obligation, and you don't want to get involved in that. So they took my advice and they left her something. Right?
Okay,
But they actually came back to me a couple of years later to say, no, we're going to leave her nothing. I thought they were going to come back and say, oh, we've repaired the relationship. It's all great. We're going to put her in as an equal share with the rest of the kids. They actually came back and said the situation's gotten worse. We're not going to leave her anything at all. And if she wants to bring the application, so be it. So that was your change of circumstances. And that's the very real thing that, sometimes it's not all roses. Sometimes things can go wrong, but like that, we can adapt, we can move, we can change. And you mentioned there adapt. If someone has an existing will and they go down to Liam Fitzgerald, you're really getting the hang of this. We should do this again. We're in Vicar Street next week, by the way.
And so if they do have, so just say for example, for myself, if I have a will with some solicitor based in town, well, we're moving to Lusk, and then I met Liam Fitzgerald, and I'm kind of thinking maybe
with that Liam Fitzgerald local solicitor,
and then I go down to yourself, but I have an existing will in place, and maybe I do want to maybe add something in or change something out. How easy is it? Because from my understanding is that if I do a will with yourself, it will supersede the previous will.
This was a question that came up last night with the ladies in the ICA. You weren't secretly there, were you? But so they were talking about things like codicils and stuff like this and making amendments to wills. And I was saying to them, listen, to be honest with you, for the amount of money we charge to do a will, it's probably easier just to write the new will if needs be, rather than doing a codicil to attach to the original will. And when you write a will anyway, one of the first things the will says is, I revoke former wills and
Yeah.
testamentary dispositions. So you could have had 10 wills over the last 10 years, but if you do one in 2025, then it's going to revoke the other ones.
And would you have to contact the other solicitor then, or is it
No,
just that it's just
no.
in that writing then that
Yeah.
it's revoked and then
Yeah, because what happens is you have to appoint an executor, somebody to carry out your wishes after you're gone. And if you notify the executor that, look, I've done a new will,
yeah,
you know, it's this new will now is the one you're going to have to rely on if anything changes. I mean, we've had situations where people have had wills in other countries, and they say, well, look, we don't want to revoke the will in Australia. We want that to stand. So can you write a will for us that'll apply here and anywhere else except Australia? We say, yeah, we can do that. You know, you
yeah,
can tailor stuff
yeah,
for clients' needs. So I suppose to answer your question, a lot of it is possible.
yeah.
If there's something you want to do, we will probably find a way to do it.
And then, so we're talking about having a will.
Yeah.
What are the implications of not having a will?
Yeah. Okay. Well, you know, when we go back to this idea of the will setting out what your intentions are, if you don't have a will, then you haven't set out what your intentions are, and the law kicks in.
Yeah.
There's a law of intestacy. You know, it says, if you're married and if you have children, your wife will get 2/3, and the
Yeah.
children will get 1/3, and it drills down. And the reason I'm not going into this because I've actually forgotten it. But anyway, we'll keep that between ourselves. But if you have a will, then you can set out clearly what you want to happen. And I think it's probably best if you have a will, especially if you're looking at the small children situation. I mean, what's the point of leaving 1/3 of your estate to a 6-year-old? It's nonsense, you
Yeah.
know. So what your will would say, well, look, I'll leave everything to my wife, and then
Yeah.
your wife would provide for your child. You know, people come to me saying, oh, well, look, I'd like to leave a little gift for the grandchild. You know, but by doing that, you're inadvertently creating trusts and stuff.
Yeah.
And that probably wasn't the intention. Though the idea is good, people want to do it, fine. But if you sit down with people and you say, listen, if you look after your kids, then it's up to your kids to look after their own kids,
Yeah.
you know, and you try and take a practical view on it.
I think it's probably cleaner
Yeah.
and more efficient
Yeah,
just
yeah,
having the
yeah,
will in
yeah.
place rather
And,
than
and keeping it straightforward. And like, if you can understand the process, it just makes it so much easier.
I actually have two questions
Oh,
for you.
okay.
I'm going to put you on the spot because I didn't even prep
yeah.
you for it. So the first
you're not
question
mad.
is, if you die without a will
Yeah,
and you're not married
yeah,
and you don't have any children,
yeah.
what happens to the assets?
Yeah. That is an excellent question. And the reason it's an excellent question is because if you have a partner, right, and if your partner is named on the title of the house along with you,
Yeah.
and if you're down there as joint tenants,
Yeah.
you know, and it's a phrase I roll out, no problem, and people don't actually know what I'm talking about. But anyway, if they're down there as joint tenants, they're deemed to be your survivor, and they automatically inherit
Okay.
the house. So it didn't matter,
Yeah,
Will,
yeah.
because it's actually deemed to have fallen outside of your estate. And this happens with things like pensions and insurance policies as well. And people don't realize this. I mean, one of the stories I told last night was I had a woman come into me one time. She wanted to do a will. She was married. She had some kids. And we were talking about the assets because the will deal with the assets, whatever you die possessed of. All right. But sometimes, let's say you're a civil servant, you will have a really good pension. You know?
Yeah.
You'll get death in service. You'll have spousal benefits, all this kind of stuff. And I think she may have been a civil servant. And I said, well, look, who's the beneficiary on your pension?
Yeah.
You know, and she realized that, oh, well, I actually took that out when I was 18, when I started in civil service first,
Yeah.
long before I met my husband. And my mother is actually the beneficiary of the pension.
Yeah.
You know, so she had to go back and change that so that it would go to her husband, right?
Yeah.
But these things can fall outside your estate. So you can take these steps, you know, so you're unmarried, your partner is on the title, they will get the house if there's no will. Now, if it's a case that you've got no partner, you're on the house on your own, then the rules of intestacy will kick in, right? So if you're not married, if you don't have kids, they'll probably look at your parents to see if
Okay,
your parents are there. If your parents are gone, it'll look at your siblings.
Yeah.
If your siblings are gone, it'll look at any children that they may have had. There is a formula and a process there for it.
A lot of work though, by the sounds of it.
Yeah,
Like-
yeah. But maybe it's better to prepare and to do the will.
Yeah.
But if you're dead, you probably don't care, wouldn't it?
Yeah. And another question, I kind of know the answer already, but someone did ask this: if a beneficiary witnesses a will, that just say, for example, their parents that they're actually going to
big no-no.
a big no, yeah. So a conflict of interest there.
I love the way he started with, I know this. Beneficiaries. I love beneficiaries, baby. Yeah, no. So if you're a beneficiary in a will and if you signed a will, then you've effectively wiped your gift out. It's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You can't do that.
Okay. Moving on.
Yeah.
So it is Local Enterprise Week.
Yeah.
This week. I did give you a shout out now. I think
good man.
we're down in the Lark in Balbriggan,
Right,
and the
I
mayor
was
was
sorry.
there.
I was sorry I couldn't make it, but it was a whole day thing, and
Yeah.
to try and put a whole day aside.
And
stuff.
Brian Lee was there, and
How'd that go? It's
it
good.
was very good. Yeah, it was just great to get his kind of insight about setting up his business. And I suppose, look, when you set up your own business, there are ups and downs, and how you kind of navigated through it and have that resilience just to keep going. But my question then for you would be, what would your tips or advice be for anyone? I know we kind of touched on it a little bit,
Yeah.
but about setting up your own business,
Well, for me, and to be honest with you, I can only talk about my experience.
especially for another solicitor firm in Lusk, if someone's looking to.
We used to be friends, Jude.
No, money mess.
Until you said that. So for me and from my experience, it was about trying to keep it simple, try and keep the costs down, try and have good relationships with people. You do need your colleagues. You need the people around you. You can't be an island. That's not going to work for you. It's important that you get on with Jude, Balbriggan.
And also the Balbriggan Chamber.
Oh, the Balbriggan Chamber,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, well, it's a valuable support network, and I know they do great work in relation to bringing people together and putting networking opportunities there. And Fingal County Council as well, of course, with their local enterprise events that they run. I went to one recently about AI.
Yeah.
Not the artificial insemination. It was great. I learned stuff. They they have the internet on computers now. It's fantastic. So but it's important about having the networks. But for me, it was about just keeping it simple. Now there's people out there who are experts in things like finance and stuff like this. That's all great if you've got money. But more often than not, when you're starting a business, you don't have a whole pile of money. That's probably the reason you're starting a business in the first place. So, talk to people, try and learn what you can from other people, and I found that in general, people are good.
Yeah. I think business people, especially when I'd be working, and speaking to business customers, and when you talk to them about their business, they're so passionate about it, where they started off, where they are now. And like, for me anyway, listening to them, they always want to share their ideas and tips.
Pain,
and any
the pain, man. Pain of growing, yeah. You don't forget the pain.
Yeah. You mentioned actually just say AI there,
Yeah.
So, and I know a lot when customers come into the banks, okay, and they say everything's going digital, and the way, and you're kind of navigating that journey through with customers to, I suppose, help them through the process, so you can give them that digital option, or else you can sit down with them and bring them through that process, in relation to kind of, I suppose, in your sector, is there anything you can do digitally? So for example, you can open up a current account online, or apply for a credit card or an overdraft, pretty kind of standard, a standard process to do that. Is there anything happening in the legal field that, that's taking that digital approach?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but just before I get on to that, I mean, we've got James here with us from the Magic Door Studios, and I see him over Jude's shoulder there. I think there's tears rolling down his face. I don't know if he's having a heart attack or what's going on, but he's really enjoying this. You're going to have to pay us for this, James. So, yeah, but in relation to the whole digital thing, I think there's a couple of things, right? For people, change can be difficult.
Yeah.
Okay. And to try and get people to do new things and to change, there's a resistance to it, right? So if they try and embrace it and coming back to this Jack Sparrow line of the problem is not the problem, it's the attitude, the problem is the problem, right? So if you can try to, you don't even have to embrace it, you don't have to love it, but if you can try and understand where it's going, try and understand why it's been implemented. I mean, more often than not, people are bringing in change because it's efficiencies, right? It's about getting stuff done quicker, and everybody likes quicker, and people want quicker, you know. So if you got the right attitude to doing the changes, it will be easier to adapt to the whole digital thing, and you will get on board with it. You will overcome it, right? Because, you know, yes, it's human nature to change, but there's an even greater human nature of resilience to survive, you know, to change and to adapt. Now, when it comes to the law the law is slow.
Yeah.
The law is slow. The law is a bit like the Titanic. It's a huge thing. It's going in one direction. If you want to move it, it takes time, right? But there is changes happening, especially since COVID. You know, things like, you know, Teams meetings, Zooms calls, this kind of DocuSign. You know, using video calls to witness signatures. You know, even the court services now are moving towards like an online portal for filing documents, you know, and having things like statements of truth rather than affidavits for uploading onto the court services. So the change is happening. It's just happening slower in law than it's happening in banking. And I think the reason for that is, you know, banking is a faster moving business. You know, it's almost okay, a bit like, you know, if you blink, you miss it kind of stuff. Whereas some of the laws that we use today, you know, they're there since the 1800s or before it. You know, if it's not broken, don't fix it. So, you know, I'm trying to think of maybe the oldest piece of legislation I can't. So jump in.
Well, I was just going to say, like, for example, you know the way you can apply for a mortgage online and you upload all the documents. Is there with PTSB? Yeah, of course. Is there an option, or are there any solicitor firms out there at the moment that you can actually submit like a will request online, and then it just comes in, and then you guys certify it, or is that? That's
a lovely idea. It's a lovely idea, but it probably can be done. I don't have a great imagination, so I can't.
This could be one for you to take away.
Well, we like to get the people in, and we like to talk to them to find out what their needs. So that we can tailor it. Now, like we do. The Law Society have a will guide. We will email the will guide out. Somebody will email back what they would like to go into their will. We will draft an email and send it. We'll draft a will and email it to them, and they can have a look at it and come back. Yes, we have to get them in to sign it. But when they do come in, we talk it through with them. And there's a lot of the time where, I didn't fully understand that. And we have to do the change. We have to make this little change. So I'm all for changes, right? And I know there is a broker out there who shall remain nameless because they don't use local sleuth. There's a broker out there who has a service, and they use a law firm, and a lot of it is done online. Now, from what I understand, I think the law firm has specialist technology for doing it, right? But the core work doesn't change. Somebody still has to read the title. Somebody has to understand what's being sold and what's being bought. Somebody has to be able to spot the issues. Somebody's got to raise the queries for the documents that are missing. So behind the fancy technology, you know, there is still somebody who needs to do the work. And I know they talk about AI and stuff like this, but I do not see, and this probably comes back to my poor imagination, I do not see a situation where AI can replace the person, the pair of hands
Yeah.
going through the papers and looking at it.
Yeah.
You know, no,
Um,
maybe I'm wrong.
Well, and even you just said it there as well. It could be a case that we just mentioned a will, and if they did it online, but if they're not coming in, just say if it was a case they could do it online, that it could be in the way that they'll do the will, but there might be other needs. They're not actually getting that expert advice from Liam Fitzgerald.
Local
solicitors.
solicitor, Lusk, yeah. So it's a bit like going on to Google. It's a bit like, do you remember I was talking to you about the doctor and the pain in the toe?
Yeah.
I go on to Google and I say, I've got a pain in my toe, then Google comes back saying, oh, you've been infected by alien juice. Chances are, no, you haven't.
Yeah.
But if you actually take your toe to a doctor, they can look at it and say, oh, geez, you banged it on the coffee table, so... AI and doing stuff online is all great, but it's horses for courses.
Yeah.
I certainly won't be going on to Dr. Google.
Yeah.
And if I was doing something that required some expertise, like going to permanent TSB to start my finances, I would go to permanent TSB. Or if I need to get my car fixed, I would go to a mechanic. I wouldn't go on to Google and say, well, how do I fix my car? And then I don't even have the tools to do it.
Liam, a quick question with the name of your business.
Yeah.
Local. I was just thinking local solicitor, but it's even though you're based in Lusk and in the Fingal area, but someone could Google it down.
That's the plan.
Was that the idea?
Yeah.
Then?
Well, there's a great story behind this, right? And I don't tell this story often enough. And to be honest with you, I don't give enough credit to the woman who inadvertently came up with this, right? So when I was starting the business in Lusk first, it was actually called Liam R. Fitzgerald, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we started as. And because I was starting the business in Lusk, you need to have an involvement in the community. You need to be getting out there, meeting people, introducing yourself, doing the networking. So my first port of call was the GEA club.
Yeah.
Right? I know there's loads of great clubs in Lusk.
Yeah.
There's fantastic clubs. I mean, there's the athletics club. There's probably one of the biggest in the country. Fantastic. Yeah. There's the soccer club. There's loads of stuff. But because being a Kerry man, it was just natural for me to gravitate towards the GEA.
Yeah.
Right? So I went to the GEA and I was doing a few bits and pieces. And there was a woman called Claire Myers who was doing the PRO stuff in the GEA club.
Yeah.
Right? And she used to put up this little post, our local solicitor.
And that's how it came about.
And I was thinking, that's actually quite good. I like that. It's catchy, right? And as luck would have it, right, there is actually regulations around what you call your law firm. The Law Society won't let you just call your law firm anything, right? So there's rules around this. And one of the rules was you couldn't call your law firm something that would portray an image that your law firm was greater than what it is, right?
Yeah.
So I couldn't have called it Global Solicitor. Couldn't. The Law Society wouldn't have allowed it. Yeah. But they would allow local solicitor. So that was pure inadvertent. Right?
And how long did you have it with Liam or Fitzgerald and then it went
I think maybe 4 or 5 years and then we changed it to local solicitor, yeah.
And would you...
And people say to me all the time, they say, oh, is this like a brand? Or, are you a part of a larger network or something? Is this your own? And I'll say, yes, it is, baby. Yes, it is. All mine.
And would you ever get a call from someone up in Donegal and go, oh, Liam?
Yeah. But we've like... because I sponsor Round Towers Lusk, sponsor the cricket club in Balbriggan. I think we even give some money to Kieran in town there because it's next to Parnell Park.
Yeah.
And we sponsor a rowing club down in Killorglin and the basketball club. Because the rowing club they work on an international level. They had Monica Dursky there who was competing in the Olympics. So it was good to have the brand attached to that national thing. Yeah. And the same with the basketball. It's a Super League team.
Yeah.
They're looking for a playoff now in the Super League. So this are all nationwide. So yeah, we get people, Limerick, Cork, Waterford, Galway, Donegal, phone us up, right? And more often than not, we can actually help them. Yeah. Strange enough, right? Because we can do a conveyance that's in Cork. We've done loads. We can do Waterford, no problem. Galway, no problem. If it's a case that you've got something in court in Limerick, chances are we know a firm in Limerick. We can pick up the phone to them and say, listen, can you look after this guy? He's going to be going in. And we've done that, you know, so it can be done. Yeah. It can be done. So, yeah, you go on and you Google it, you know, solicitor near me. Oh, local solicitor pops up. Yeah. And you get a guy phoning up, you know, from Tipperary saying, oh, I got a speeding fine. And I say, well, listen, man, it's probably cheaper to pay the fine than actually phone me. But anyway, you know.
And did you ever think of maybe opening up another office somewhere else? Maybe down, you know, because you're originally from Kerry, maybe in the Munster area or somewhere. Did that ever cross your mind?
Absolutely. But the thing about it is if you were to open another office, what needs to happen is you would need to have a solicitor there. Yeah. Right. And that solicitor has to be a partner in the firm. Now, I've seen situations where solicitors have opened other offices and put solicitors in there, and that's fair and good. But I think, strictly speaking, under the terms of your insurance, the solicitor who's managing that practice needs to be a partner in the firm. And to find a partner is a very, very unique and special thing. You can't just partner up with just anybody. Yeah. So to find somebody who's on the same wavelength, you know, I mean, I count myself blessed that I was able to get married. You know, there was somebody who wanted to marry me. So, you know, to try and strike gold twice, you know, that's going to be rare. Like, so I'm hoping that with time somebody will come along. Like in the firm, we bring through apprentices. We'll have a new solicitor starting with us now when he qualifies. And you would hope that in time, as the relationships develop, and coming back to what I was saying earlier about the relationships, you know, that you would find somebody who would be a suitable partner, you know, and then you would look to expand. Yeah. You know, but it's something you cannot rush into it. Yeah. You just cannot do it quickly. It needs to be done right.
But I think with the name, local solicitors, give it another plug. But I think, as you said there, you just alluded to that, that if someone does ring you from Tipperary and you know the way you are dealing with them, that you can potentially ring a solicitor firm in Tipperary and they can drop in. You know?
Yeah. So, you know, this comes back to having the good relationships with the people down the country or across the country or up the country, wherever you want to call it. Because, you know, if I would do you a favor, then someday if you get an opportunity, you'll do me a favor. This kind of thing, you know. I think, you know, just to try and give you a flavor of where I'm coming from, right? I mean, I worked in town in one of the biggest firms in the country before I opened in Lusk. And the guy who hired me in there, when I said to him, I said, listen, I'm going to open my own firm. First thing he said to me was, you know, you're not going to make the same amount of money. I can hear. And I said, yeah, I know. And I said, I'm not doing it for the money. You know, that is strange. Yeah. It's a strange thing to happen. But the reason I wanted to do it was I just wanted to see what it was like. What's it like to run your own business? You know, so I wanted to see what it was like. And I had this idea that rather than focusing on the money, if you could focus on success, right, and success can come in any shape. You can measure this whatever way you like. And for me, success is happy clients, repeat clients. Yeah. Right? Good referrals, this kind of stuff. If you can do that right, the money will come. Yeah. Okay? So, I can't remember where I was going with this, but you know, it sounds really great. But it was, so like to give the flavor of me, right? So it's about being successful. You know, being successful is, you know, it's a bit like, what was it they used to say in retail about happy clients?
Happy man, also happy wife, happy life.
So something like this.
Retail,
but in retail, it was something to do with it, you know. It had something to do with customer service. And it said, it's not about you having a smile on your face. It's about your client having a smile on your face. So if I could have smiles on my clients' faces, then I know I'm doing something right. Because I forgot the invoice at the start. And they were all laughing, you know. But that's how it was for me. So the money comes if you're good at what you do. If you're successful, the money will come.
And then, so we'll bring it back then to Lusk. Okay,
Yeah,
when you
yeah,
first
yeah,
open
yeah,
up, there are huge developments
yeah,
going on now. So
yeah,
even when I be driving through Lusk, like there's houses
yeah,
popping up everywhere. I'm originally from Donabay. It's the same, Balbriggan.
yeah. But yeah, on a base flying.
It's crazy. Where do you see, I suppose, Fingal in the next 5, 10 years, maybe economically or just, you know?
I think I think Fingal is on the verge of greatness.
Yeah,
Um, it's going to have everything you could want and more.
yeah,
It takes time, and and people can't just rely on Fingal County Council to put everything there for them. If people want things, they kind of have to go and do them themselves. If you want if you want to achieve something, you probably have to go and try and do it. But uh, there is going to be loads of opportunities
yeah,
because when you build that many houses and you bring that many people in, when you have those numbers, you know, things will happen.
yeah,
Things will happen. Uh, uh, and if people have the right attitude, good things will happen.
yeah,
So it's going to be great. It's
yeah.
going to be great. But Towers will always be better than Dwars in football. But good things will happen. You dream the dream there, baby.
Yeah, and actually, someone said this to me. Is there a statue outside of
On the
Lusk?
sash,
A
Kerryman.
Kerryman.
Yeah,
Is that,
absolutely.
Is that,
Absolutely,
is
yeah.
that how your love? You got the love.
I actually knew
Lusk?
nothing about him before
Yeah.
before I got there. Now there's a place in Tralee. There's Ash Street, right,
Yeah.
and there is the Thomas Ash Hall, right.
Yeah,
I had no idea. I actually didn't know who he was at the time, but I had no idea he had a connection to Lusk.
yeah,
Right? It was only when I got to Lusk and people were telling me about them, I was kind of going, Jesus, we Kerrymen really are great. We're super. But yeah, there is that Kerry connection. It was pure coincidence, but I think, every couple of generations, everywhere should have a Kerryman.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
it should be mandatory that you have a Kerryman in your community.
Well, my dad, he's originally from Kerry, so
Oh,
I think I
well,
mentioned
there you
it,
go.
yeah.
This is
So
greatness. I knew we were getting on. It's too good to be true.
With the O'Sullivan.
Yeah.
Last question. We could spend, I'd say, another hour chatting
Yeah,
away, but we
absolutely.
might have a follow-up.
Yeah.
You do a lot of sponsorship.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that there
yeah,
as well.
yeah.
So obviously big in, heavily involved with Lusk GA. So you sponsor, is it the men's team?
It's the adult men's football section, so that covers the minors as well.
Yeah.
It was a good opportunity to get involved. So at the start, when I had no money, I had time.
Yeah.
So I used to give them time. Then, as I had no time and I had money, I said, well, I can't give them the time because I don't have it. So I gave them the money. And there was, any club, there's always going to be a vacuum.
Yeah.
They will always need money. So we put money into it in the hope of achieving great things.
Yeah.
And yes, people might say, oh, look, you haven't won championships or you haven't done this, you haven't done that. But it comes back to, well, how are you defining greatness?
Yeah.
Right? And I've been over at the club, right? I've been at the club.
Yeah.
And the adult men's footballers would be out on the pitch playing, and the coaches and stuff would be there. And the kids are there. And the boys are, coming off at halftime or whatever. And they're high-fiving these guys. They're looking up to these guys. You're creating something really great there.
Good culture.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, I think sponsoring sporting clubs is probably one of the best ways for advertising.
Yeah.
Because they get something out of it. I get something out of it. It generates goodwill.
Well, you got a name out of it.
Yeah, I did actually. No, geez, I owe Ron Torres more money. It wasn't him. But yeah, no. So again, it comes back to it's about trying to have a good attitude to stuff.
Yeah.
And if you have a positive attitude, or try and take a positive outlook. I mean, even business wise, at the start of this year, I'd set some goals for myself. One was to try and be more positive in my business and in the way I was doing business. Because, like I'm 11 years in Lusk now, I'm nearly 20 years qualified. It takes its toll. You get tired, sometimes some of the goodness gets taken out of you. But I'm trying to renew that, and I'm trying to develop the staff as well, give them a renewed purpose. So that we're trying to strive for better things. And for us last year, we didn't do as well as we did the year before because like we're talking about the developments. There was one of the developments in Lusk where we did all of the houses.
Yeah.
All of them. So that was a good year for us.
Yeah.
So we didn't do all of the houses in any particular development last year. So it wasn't as good. But I was thinking, if we've got the right attitude, we can do the work.
Yeah.
We can generate the fees and generate the revenue. So again, the money is second to producing the goods.
Yeah.
If you can't produce the goods, the money's not going to follow. Yeah.
And then with the sponsorship, going back to it,
Yeah.
so Lusk, I just want to mention how Lusk done, because you're giving me a bit of a slang here about old Dwars.
I see where this is going. Okay, James, man, I think we've had enough. We're going to cut this now.
But I know when I was chatting to you 2 or 3 weeks ago, I know Lusk, they had their first win.
Yeah, oh yeah, good. I thought you were going to talk about the dropping out from senior football.
No.
Thank God you didn't mention that.
So would you go down to much of the matches?
Yeah, I try and get to the matches. No, like I'm involved in a lot of community stuff. So I'm involved with schools, I'm involved with the church, involved with the sports and other bits and pieces. So time is precious. Right. And I have a family as well. So I need to try and give them some time, So I do try and get to the home games. I was actually on my way to a home game until one of my kids phoned me, who had gone into town to take part in a competition in town and forgot something and said, "Oh, Dad, can you drop me in this?" And after the initial grinding of the teeth, you had to jump in the car and you had to go. So I didn't get to see the opening match at home and the first win and the chance to meet the new manager as well. But I will get there. The season is long. So.
Still, and then, sorry, just to kind of finish up then, you mentioned then you were sponsoring a rowing club. And a basketball team as well.
Super
Is there,
basketball.
are you interested in like what drew you to actually sponsor those two different sports?
So I played sports when I was younger. Though, like anybody who's watching this, you're not going to see that I'm like 5
the physique.
And if you're listening to this, I'm not as big a man as I think I am, right? So like I had to give, but I gave up football like at a young age, like 16, because like I said, I was playing football with the guys like, Mike Frank, Liam Hassett, all these guys went on to play for Kerry. I wasn't at that level. I wasn't. I played basketball in school, but there's I've actually a post on Facebook now where I went up to Belfast to watch the guys play Belfast Star, and they took a photograph of me with the team. I looked like one of the hobbits. It was horrible. So I don't play basketball, but I have a love of sport. I have a love of sport. I would much prefer to play than to watch it. But I have a love of sport, and especially when a Super League basketball team in Killorglin and County Kerry. When they came to me telling me we have a Super League team, how does Killorglin have a Super League team? Right? I was shocked, right? But they do, and they do quite well. I mean, they've got Jordan Blunt playing with them now, who's an Irish international. So it's amazing what can happen.
Donaghy, did he play?
Oh yeah, that's
Tralee,
Garvey's. Arch enemies. They had the derby there, Valentine's Day. Massacre. But we lost. But yeah, so Kieran Donaghy plays. He's slightly taller than me, or twice the size of me, should I say. But so I had a love of sport. So basketball, natural fit. The football, natural fit. The rowing, I wasn't actually involved in rowing at all. I do remember being asked to go into Cox on a boat, because maybe they just thought I was a bit mouthy or something. I don't know. But I didn't do it anyway. I was too busy drinking pints or something. I don't know. But
in Letterkenny.
The
highest dropout rate.
So but when it came to the opportunity to sponsor them, and because these guys had guys taking part in the Olympics.
Yeah.
I mean, how could you turn that opportunity down? There was actually a girl from Killorglin who used to row with the rowing club. She is now inducted to the Sports Hall of Fame in Boston College. Yeah. So there is a history there. There's a tradition there. You know, and it's great to be a part of that.
Yeah.
You know, it's great to be able to tell those kind of stories.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's probably, and like I said, I think, you know, sponsoring sports club is probably one of the best ways of doing advertising.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually didn't have this question. I just thought of it there now. To finish it up, I suppose, is where do you see local solicitors in the next, maybe, you mentioned about goal setting. We talked a little bit about maybe partnerships, open up maybe, in a way, another office down the country. What do you envisage for local solicitors in the next couple of years?
I suppose the business model would probably be to try and have a local solicitor in every county. Yeah. Right? Rather than having one big local solicitor in Dublin city centre, you know, working globally. I think the idea would be to have one in each of the counties or whatever. But for me, it's about the brand awareness. You know, I would like people to think of local solicitor when it comes to legal services like people think about Coca-Cola when it comes to soft drinks. Yeah. You know, some shops, you know, if you don't sell Coca-Cola, you might as well close down. Yeah. Right? I'm thinking, well, if you don't have a local solicitor in your town, well, sure, you might as well just pack up and move on. You know, so it's that kind of thing. It's this idea of brand recognition. You know, one of the first words babies will have is local solicitor
in the baby group.
Yeah. I just got to get mobile phones. Well, they probably have mobile phones, but anyway. So if they can teach them to read, that'll be super. But yeah, that's the goal. It's this idea of when you think of a solicitor, first thing you think of is local solicitor. You don't even think of anything.
So you're based in Lusk, and just finishing up then. So you're based in Lusk. If any of the listeners or any of the viewers have any questions or any queries for you, what's your best contact then?
Yeah, if you go on to our website, we do a lot of work on our website. We've invested on it. We're hoping that our website will give you a lot of answers. But the main thing is the contact details are there. Yeah. So phone us. Yeah. Talk to us. Yeah. So just simply getting an answer sometimes takes away a lot of it. And the website is simple. It's www.localsolicitor.ie.
For all those people up in Donegal.
Yeah.
Or Tipperary.
It's still the same web address. Yeah. Even in New York.
Yeah. Well, look, thank you so much, Liam, for coming in. I know we rolled out the red carpet for you for this afternoon. Definitely for the viewers or the listeners, like a lot of food for thought there, very insightful. And then also I think your passion as well to delivering really good customer service, you know, when clients are coming in, whatever the case is, that you're there for them to support them. And then the local sponsorship. So look, thank you so much, Liam.
Very welcome. Thanks very much for having me. It's a pleasure. And I'd like to give a shout out to James, Magic Door Studios, fantastic setup.
Yeah, and actually, James is a local man then as well. He was born in Bath Road. I think he went to the Tech secondary school there.
There you go.
So it's great.
Local talent.
Yeah,
man.
Exactly.
Local talent. Can't beat it. He's still crying out.
Thanks very much, Liam.
All right, thank you.